Welcome back, everybody. I'm Zach Shelley, and I have Kirk Teachout here in another great episode of Management Unfiltered. Hey, Kirk, what are we talking about today?
Okay, Zach. So today we are talking about the hidden cost of wearing too many hats, because we definitely wear a lot of hats. I don't have a hat around me right now, but as leaders, you have one, of course. As leaders, as managers, as practice owners, we wear way too many hats a lot of times, and we need to learn how to put the hat or take it off of our head and put it on others. But I'm going to go a step further and say that your hands-on approach is capping your growth. And it's not allowing your team to be leaders. It's not allowing you to get things done effectively. And that's the reason why you're stuck where you are. And if you want to unlock this, we're going to be going through some things and talking through some things to allow yourself to take that hat off and maybe give it to somebody else, or kind of rearrange and automate, delegate, whatever we're going to do.
Well, I was actually going to ask you a question on this as you're entering this. Kirk, do you feel like this hands-on approach or lack of delegation is intentional or unintentional with most leaders?
I would say it's a control issue a lot of times. Especially when it comes to practice owners, they're control freaks. And it's not always their fault, because they're already in this like perfectionism mindset of we've got to get the issues solved and we've got to get it right and it's got to be perfect every single time. So it's this culture that that really is like, I can do it better than you and I don't have the time to be able to train you to get it done. So I'm just going to do it, right? So they just keep piling hats on top of hats instead of learning and creating that system of change we've already talked about.
Yeah, I agree. And so I've been in this spot before, especially when I first started at the practice. I was like, you know what? Some of the stuff I just know how to do. So it's just easier for me to just handle it. And, yes, as I was in that position when I didn't have all these other duties that had been dropped on me yet, it was easy to do that of like, I'll just handle it because it takes me 30 seconds. Well, 30 seconds turns into an hour, turns into 2 hours, turns into every single week, because they're like, oh, this is just what Zach fixes or Zach does because he's just the guy to do it. And so really quickly, I started learning this more so tactic of let me educate and elevate in order to crush every single day and not want to die. And this aspect of what I started to do is I created a troubleshooting guide, which is actually still used in the practice today. So let's just talk about like technical issues in the practice just to start. 90% of the team members in your office don't know how to fix any sort of technical issue, and that's a major problem. And it's as simple as the chair won't go up and down, right? And it's like, well, if you like British humor, there's a show called The IT Crowd, which is amazing. And it's all about like just the failures of IT. And they're like, have you tried turning it off and on again? Is the computer on? Did you click the mouse? And it's just all these simple things, but it's real life. Like, this is what we deal with every single day. And so I legit created a troubleshooting guide with the most common failures in the practice. So chair won't go up and down. The first thing they need to look on is the light green on the bottom of the chair. There's no light. Okay, it doesn't have power. So then go look at the wall. Did the GI-Fi trip? Okay, let's click that reset. Is the green light back on? Yes. Now try your chair. 99% of the time, that is what the fix is. Okay, suction isn't working. Is the pump on? And it's these questions that I go through, and it's on this list. And so what we started to do is, one, like you said, Kirk, I removed that technical hat of all these issues, and somebody coming with me and they're like, my Cavitron's not working. Perfect. Did you check your troubleshooting guide? No, I didn't check that yet. Okay, go back and check your troubleshooting guide, and we can address that after the fact. Once you've gone through all the steps, if it's still not working, then I'll come help you. So I can keep doing what I'm doing, and then we're actually able to empower our team members to start taking ownership over these things. And man, I'll tell you, the amount of time that it's freed up for me was insane. And also what it uncovered is the employees and team members that actually are worth a darn to be able to fix something and can figure things out and actually follow simple instructions. So this is another tactic on how you can train your team and educate your team to be their best, is like, if you didn't just write your name on the first instruction, then like I already know, okay, I'm going to have major problems with you. So you start seeing these people, no, you didn't check your troubleshooting guide. You don't know where it is. Here's another copy. Go do it. Because a lot of times like they just don't want to deal with it. And I'm like, well, now you know how annoying it was for me to deal with it for you all the time. So now fix. And they're like, oh, and then you start getting these team members that start understanding how to do these things. And this can be in billing. This can be in front desk, front office. It can be the doctors. It can be anything. Once you start empowering them, they're like, oh, this is how you do this. And then they start empowering, encouraging each other, and you're not having to hit those markers anymore that you were.
Yeah. Well, and that's about trying to get your team more proactive, right? Instead of reactive to the dumpster fires that are in the office and or in their like la la land that they deal in. And you know, that's one tactic of having a resource, right? So I did work IT for a company and for a whole summer, and it was for a florist or a floral company that, you know, we were upgrading systems for these floral shops, and you know, we would have to ask, like, is it plugged in? Is it turned on? Is it like all these things? Like, because you've got to start at the source and work your way backwards to where it could be a potentially big issue. But most of the time, yes, it is those few things at the very beginning, which is why, you know, for instance, just to point out, and I'm not flexing here, but I am kind of flexing here.
He's flexing.
I am flexing. You can't see, I'm off screen, but still. So my flex here is I only went into the office 3 times total last year, and I still managed the practice because 1 was for a cleaning, 2 was to upgrade to Windows 11, and that's an undertaking I wouldn't ask anybody to do besides me and or IT. But the only other thing was to support the vision of the practice, train everybody again on the vision and the direction of the practice and where it was going last year. That was the only time that I was in the practice to do work.
Yeah.
Physical work. And the reason for it is because the systems, like you were saying, they have the resources. They have the systems of what to do. So the only time they come to me is when it's a true dumpster fire. But even then, when they do come to me, I ask, okay, have you done your 131? And what I mean by that is, if there's a problem, I need you to look up 3 potential solutions, and I need you to research those and give me one viable option that you think is the best. And what it does is it makes them be more proactive and even Google something to see if they can find an answer. And again, that's why all I had to do was send a few texts over the last year just to say, hey, look in this area. Look here. Oh, yeah, I'll take care of that for you. Versus me constantly having to be up at the practice and constantly wear these hats that we're talking about.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know what? This comes to a point that I remember, Kirk, talking to my team is I started coming up with this theory, like if we have an issue and you don't come with a solution or a potential solution, you're just coming to me to complain that something's not working. And so I required it. It's a little different from the 131. I like the 131 method, but it's the same thought process as like, come to me. And if you come to me with no solution, like I'm going to tell you to walk away and think about a solution, because I don't want you walking into my office and saying, this doesn't work. Okay, awesome. Have a good day. Like, I mean, I thank you for alerting me that this is broken. Did you break it? Like, you know, and I had that situation where somebody's like, the Nomad isn't working. And I'm like, the Nomad is shattered. Who dropped it? Oh, no, it just fell apart. Well, yesterday, it was not rapidly disassembling unexpectedly like a rocket. Like, no, it was dropped. And so it was one of those things where I told, you know, you go back through that education and that, you know, expectation. I said, the next time this happens, because you just cost me $9,000, you all are splitting the cost of this. And I'm telling you right now, because this was not how it needs to be handled. And I can guarantee you, my team trained every single team member that used that Nomad how to use it correctly, how to put it in his cradle right away, not to hold it with just one hand. And we solved those problems because it's empowering the team. So what I started doing after I created this troubleshooting guide, that was like kind of one of the more like the frequent things that happen. Then when something else would break, because I'm one person, I'm not always in the practice. I'd be traveling to go to conferences, Kirk, right? Like we go speak, we do all these things. So sometimes we're unreachable. And when those situations always happen when I'm not reachable. 100%. So anytime something broke, I would bring a team member with me and say, hey, I'm showing you what I'm doing right now. Yep. Because when it happens and I'm not here, I'm hoping that you'll remember, please take notes and we'll walk through this. So the nitrous levels would spike. So nitrous is an expansive gas. So it's under pressure till it's not. But then it's also will gain pressure if the regulators are off, and they have to be adjusted from time to time depending on temperature of the office, the flow rate. We're going through just really a lot of factors can really bring that up. And the girls will always come and say, hey, nitrous looks a little bit high, and it's maybe 1 or 2 pounds over, but it's beeping and it's super annoying. So we go in where we adjust the regulators and we get them corrected. And they're like, well, how do you do that? And I'm like, well, this is what we do. Come over here, take this, take this, take this. So now when it would happen again, they'd watch it for a minute. If it wouldn't go down, then we can come back in and we can adjust the regulators to make sure our pressures are good. Beautiful system. Same thing with computers. I mean, they come in and they're like, I can't log into my computer. I'm like, yeah, it says click continue here. It's shut off without expectation. Like just click continue. Moving forward, do not ask me to click continue again. Or like we would get all these alerts. And so like we had almost 30 computers, maybe more than 30 computers in the office. So if there was an alert from anything, I would get notified by 37 different people, the same thing. So would they be walking in? Is this a computer issue? You already know about it. Like tell everybody don't come to me and tell me I've heard it 14 times already. I don't need to hear it another 23. And I'm like, I'm not trying to be rude. I'm aware. It's everybody's computer. Just start telling everybody so I don't have to go over this again. And then if somebody's like, hey, I figured this out, perfect. Will you start telling everybody on this side of the office? I'll start telling everybody on that side of the office and divide and conquer and get people empowered to do it. Because the more you can empower your team, the less money you're going to lose. And Doc, if you're handling these things, this is the worst use of your time. If you're fixing computer issues, if you're getting chairs to work or Cabotrons to work, no, get your butt in a chair, cut a tooth, make some money, and allow your team to actually do what they need to do, because you're not saving any money or efficiency in this aspect in doing what you're doing. Quite honestly, you're stupid if you're doing that. And I'm just going to say, because this is Management Unfiltered, you're stupid if you're doing that and not cutting teeth. So docs, don't be stupid, be smart, educate, and elevate your team.
Yeah, but even to your failure too, I remember when I was there last January and we couldn't walk out of the office for 10 minutes without you getting 10 calls. Right?
With putting barriers in, right, Kirk? Like I was like, hey, I've given them like, don't contact me, and they still do it. And I'm like, oh gosh.
But that was a learning moment, right? So like you had to go through and think about all of those things that they kept going to you for, and just create even more barriers and more resources for them. So that way they didn't constantly call you when you were out of the office. So I want to kind of pivot. So we've gone over solutions already, right? But I want to widen this gap and talk more about to the psychology maybe of why some of these happen. So why do you think so many owners and office managers wear it like a badge of honor to have these hats versus using it as a warning sign?
I like to really wear it like a wrestling belt. Is that what you have in the background there, Kirk?
I'm not going over that. We're going to have an episode on that.
I'm just messing with you. I think so. I feel like docs and OMs and team members that hit it like that aspect of like a badge of honor is like, look at everything that I can accomplish. Look at everything I can do. Look how smart I am. It's an ego thing. It's like stroking that ego of like, hey, I'm like the Lord of all office managers or the dentist of all office managers. That's like, I have 400 letters behind my name, which truly, if you're doing everything, means nothing. It's like you suck because you won't give anything up. And I'm not saying like I have a bunch of letters behind my name, but like that doesn't matter when you can't manage or lead effectively. Like none of that matters if you're a crappy person and you treat people like they don't know what they're doing, or not allow people to do what they're best at. And you will find that when you start relieving some of that pressure and giving it over to your team to handle and teaching them how to do it, you'll actually feel way more relaxed. You'll feel an increased efficiency, and your team's going to work harder for you. Like, you're holding your team back by wearing all these hats. Because I'll tell you, I hear all the time now, like when we're talking about like billing and whatnot, people are like, yeah, my doc won't let me do that. And I'm like, he does that. Your doctor is going and double checking all these things. Like, yeah. I'm like, why? Well, that's what he wants. He's here till like 9:00 at night. And I'm like, why? Like, that makes no sense. I'm like, okay, we need to go talk to the doctor about this, because he's wasting his time and wasting your time. And now you feel like you're being undercut, and it's an ego thing. And if there's a trust factor that you don't trust your team that much, like, okay, first, are they embezzling from you? No. And you can prove that. Okay, let's move away from this now, and let's figure out what the real issue is, and let your team do what they need to do. And then you can go home to your family.
Right. Yeah. And as we grow, like, it's definitely a trust issue, right? We don't trust our teams enough to do the job, and we believe that everything has to be up to the standard. And I'm not saying lower your standards by any means, but if you can get your team to do 80% of the job that you would do, nobody's going to do it like you would. But if you can get everybody to at least get up to that 80% good enough, that's awesome. That is a good metric, right? To get people to where they're doing 80% of what you would do, and then it's good enough, and then you can kind of put the icing on top with the extra 20, then you're doing 20% of the work versus 80% of the work, right? So, yeah, I mean, it's definitely ego, it's definitely trust, and every leader hits a moment where doing more actually creates less progress, right? It gets more chaotic, you cap your growth. What role do you think, what hat maybe, was the hardest for you to let go of, and why?
That's a really good question, because there are so many hats I wore. I honestly, I feel like probably just the delegation of like the day-to-day like IT issues. And it's not so much that I was afraid to give it away for any sake or reason. I just was, the only part of that I was more nervous about is like, do you know the right words to communicate with IT? Like, there's so many moving parts to each thing that could break down, and that like I didn't really know how to start to give it away, if that makes sense. Like, well, what's the first thing I should in order for it to be efficient? And that was kind of like my hardest part, is there's so many moving parts. And when I came in, there was never an office manager before me. So that was the hardest part, is like, we built this position and started learning day in and day out, like, oh, this is your job too. And this is your job too. So then it's like, okay, all these jobs need to now go to somebody else and figuring out what all the nuances were when I was still learning what those pieces were. So I think the hardest part for me is just not having that full, well-rounded position laid out in order to know what to delegate and what not to. So it took some time for me to actually learn everything and then start giving things away. And I want to hit a point back that you were saying where like they might not do your job better than you. There's also the other aspect of like they might do it 100 times better than you because they're more efficient, because they have the time to handle it, where you're missing things because you're so bound by all the hats that you're wearing. But like one of the big things that like I delegated right away is like to one of my front office team members was filling out the payroll grid and handing out all the time cards and making sure everybody checked them off, signed their time cards, everything looked good, getting everything on a sheet. So all I had to do was just audit it and make sure everything lined up and matched. It took me like 5 minutes to go through everything and make sure it looked good. It took them a lot more time than that, but they loved it and they enjoyed it and they felt empowered to do that. They're like, oh, you're giving me like, they're not running payroll. They're just compiling all the information for me, but they love doing it. And I was like, sweet, anything else you would like, I can hand this over to you. And so you find team members that actually enjoy things that you hate. It never brought me joy to print out time cards and pass them out to everybody. I'm like, that's not something that I get excited about. And so I just told the team, hey, she's going to be sending these out to you. Double check them. If you have questions or concerns or something, needs to be changed, let me know and I'll handle that side. But if it's good, check it off, put it in the folder for her, and she'll take care of everything, and I'll make sure you get paid on time. And man, it was a beautiful thing.
Right.
So there are things. I think just the biggest struggle for me is there's so many moving parts, and it wasn't clearly defined everything that my job would look like, that it was hard to delegate until I really learned about all of it. Because, if I didn't learn everything, I delegated something early, like, hey, you're under overall maintenance, but I don't understand the maintenance that's involved for the practice, then I'm out of the loop. So like I was kind of forced into having to wear all the hats to start and then start chucking them as fast as I could, which is not the most efficient way to do it. It's just what I had to do in my situation.
Right. And to piggyback off of that, letting go of hats in the wrong order creates chaos. So I would argue there's a smarter sequence of kind of what we can do. So what roles should never be delegated too early, do you think?
Anything involved with employee privacy, right, should be the first thing that we should stop and say, you need to vet this person very, very deeply and give them smaller tasks, like minute tasks, and see what they're able to do. Because anything that involves anything with privacy, patient or, I mean, we're putting a lot of trust in these front office team members, and any team members accessing our PMS. There's a ton of, information that's can get you in a lot of trouble. But you want a really quick lawsuit. Give an employee information about another employee and they start blabbering, you're done at that point. Like, so I think that would be the first thing should be very, very cautious of not giving private employee information. And even like I said, with this whole payroll thing, they had no information other than the people's names and time they clocked in and out. That's all I gave them to make sure that, I still have some sort of, you do need to have control to an extent. We're not saying just give everything and give all your hats off. Like, you do have to protect a lot of this, but there are things that you don't need to worry about. And so there are ways to do it without giving all that info away.
Yeah. I mean, and there's like, even with, my, we can say VA for like just general purposes, but even with my assistant, I want her to be able to work on anything that's not client facing. Right. So you have these parameters and these barriers, as we call them, right, that allow them to do a job that's a menial task that takes it off of your plate, so you can focus on the important task that does have this sensitive information on it.
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah. So if there is anything, like, maybe you could look at that as like, okay, what could I do to give access without giving access?
Yeah. So this was another thing that we would do. So if we were doing like recredentialing paperwork or anything that required the doctor's social security number, driver's license number, all like deeper information, I would have them and say, hey, for my insurance billing coordinator, I need you to fill out all these zones here and I'll handle the rest. I'll get the doctor's signatures. I'll get their social. I'll get their driver's license. All I need you to do is do the forefront of the busy work. I'll fill in the important information after the fact. So they never actually have to deal with any of that. And none of that information was translated to another employee other than myself. So it put those barriers and blocks or, literal firewalls in place. So there's no breach of just anything. And it's, same thing with, employee paperwork. Hey, I'm going to have you train them. I have all their paperwork. You don't need any of that. I created the username. You can help them get the password reset and open dental when they get in and all those fun things, but they're not actually physically doing any private information. Does that make sense?
Correct. Yeah. So those are definitely some hats that you don't want to get off too early or delegate too early. What's usually the first hat that should actually go?
Man, I feel like I'm like in the hot seat today.
Oh, you put me in the hot seat last time, so I don't want to hear it. Okay.
So the first hat, quite honestly, it's going to be a little bit more of a vague statement, but anything that literally, if you look at it and you're like, I don't need to do this, you should be giving all of that off of. Like giving a new hire, like, hey, can you pass along this paperwork to them? You don't need to do that. Can you greet them to the team? Can you walk in and turn lights on? Like these are little things you'd be surprised. Unlocking the front door in the morning. Like the office manager does not need to be doing this. Turning on all the lights, making sure all the chairs are powered up, pumps are on, computers are on. Like that crap you don't need to be touching. Those are things that are super, super easy that the OM should be able to walk in. Like I'd walk into the practice, everything be on and ready to go when I got there. And it was still before time, but I had people that love to get set up and get in early. And we have a time that you can clock in at, but if you want to come in sooner, great. So I had select people that had keys to get in the practice. So they'd come in, turn all the pumps on, turn all the lights on, start emptying autoclaves, get their everything ready. So then when they can clock in, they're actually being efficient with their time and not, just twiddling their fingers. Other things is too is starting to delegate your huddle. It doesn't always need to be your office manager. You're going to be in there, but it's also nice to have other team members lead your huddle and get it going. So if you do need to have an early interview, your team's not waiting on you.
Again, it's like when you create, I mean, you can do an Eisenhower matrix, you could just do a list or whatever. It's like things that I should be doing, things that I shouldn't be doing. My favorite one is it at the height of your license, right? So write down everything you do and then put a star next to everything that doesn't require you to do it, right? Those things need to be the first thing to come off your list and to train people on and kind of go from there. But one final question before we wrap up here. If someone is exhausted right now and they're wondering, we've talked about maybe a couple of hats that they need to get off of their plate, but what does it cost a leader to hold on to too many hats for another year?
If you want to be real, I mean, depending on the size of your practice, it could be hindering your overall like production.
Millions of dollars.
I mean, quite honestly, it could. I mean, it's hard to put a number on it, but it's one, costing you your sanity. It's costing your joy in the position. It's costing other team members because they're seeing the stress load that's on it, and they might be screaming from inside like, "I can help you, but you're not giving it to me." Yeah. And not always will they be so bold to say, "Hey, like, let me take this off your shoulders." So you do need to be approachable. But I mean, it could cost you hundreds of thousands of dollars, especially if the doc, if you're doing this, bro. Like this it legit is costing you hundreds of thousands. And if you're doing multi-millions of dollars a year, it could cost you upwards of $1 million because you're sandbagging yourself on what you're able to do day in and day out. So I know we joke and say it's millions of dollars, but literally it is. And also profitability, because your team members might be spending so much time on the back end fixing these things when they could just doing it correctly the first time. But because you want your hands in all the baskets, you're hindering them, and then you're actually paying them more money.
Correct. And I mean, and to your point, right? You hit a good one there where a lot of times your team
I only have good points.
Oh, of course. but your team is quietly sitting there waiting for you to do it, right? So for instance, this was just a few weeks ago. I was doing a workshop at a practice, and the doctor went out of the room for a little bit, and I was talking to the team, and they're like, "I love your points. We need to do this. We're just waiting for him to let us do it." And I'm like, oh my goodness. And so I'm telling him, I'm like, "Look, dude, your team is literally begging to be able to do this. Just let them do it. And you're just scared that they won't want to do it, but they want to, right?" So, a lot of this boils down to fear. False evidence appearing real, right? That their team doesn't want to do it. And also control and ego. But if we can swallow our pride, get rid of our ego, understand that, yes, maybe sometimes the team doesn't want to do it, but sometimes they need to do it. And then things get so much easier, so much better. And your growth comes from that, right? Of getting out of your own way. So Zach, is there anything else that we can add on to this episode? I know we could go down a rabbit hole for a long time on this, but
there's a lot of rabbit holes. I think that's the first thing is don't get rid of the fear first. Yeah. Just get rid of the fear. Start with, actually, yes, I do have something, and it's going to be, it's going to be what I tell everybody. After you listen to this episode, do nothing for the first 24 hours. Compile everything you're looking at, because what you're going to want to do is just start like doing everything at once, and that's not going to be efficient use of your time because there's going to be too many things you're going to have to look at. Pick the top 2 or 3 things to delegate off, manage those for the first couple of days, make sure they're getting done, and then go down your list. And as you start crossing them off, you're going to see the relief and pressure, but do it methodically, do it the right way. Don't try to do it all at once. Same thing when I say we're changing things and we're going to train our team, and everybody goes back and like, all right, we're changing everything, and you just pissed everybody off. No, one thing at a time. And so just pump the brakes and be methodical about it, and you'll win.
This was a fun episode to do because one, I put you in the hot seat, and
you had way too much fun doing that.
I did. It was a lot of fun. But guys, it's been another great episode of Management Unfiltered. We love doing this. We're growing and learning and trying to allow you to see the things that we see. Yes. But either way, make sure to hit the YouTube, subscribe, do all the things. Hit us up on Apple and Spotify, all the things. Leave 5-star reviews, what you want to hear, what you want us to tackle, because we are unfiltered. We want to try to just be super direct and pragmatic about things. Get in Dental Office Management Leadership Network, yes. And I hit, yeah, Domlin. Let's just go with Domlin, okay? Zach's group, hit me up on Instagram at Kirk Teachout, and we will talk to you on the next episode.
See you guys.
Come on, give me some.